Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. My name is Tidis Otlaka, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Agama Research and Development. Today we look into a paper 2 revision lesson with the focus on the main topic we call business rules. This is normally assessed in your question 3 and it will also be assessed in your question 6. So let us start with our learning outcomes. What should you understand? By the end of this unit, you should be able to, number 1, know the structure of the paper, to say how is the paper 2 paper structured. You should also know the main topics that are assessed in paper 2 and also know the examination preparation methods, to say how should you go about tackling those questions that you may find in your paper 2 examination. Now, let's start with the structure of the paper. With the structure of the paper, the focus is on the understanding that we have 3 sections. We have section A, we have section B, and we have section C. Now, section A consists of compulsory short questions. Compulsory short questions, making it compulsory for you to answer everything in your section A. You have business rules and business ventures as main topics of paper 2, and these 2 main topics are assessed equally so. Business rules is assessed for 15 marks and business ventures is also assessed for 15 marks. And the types of questions that are assessed in section A, question 1 will be 1.1 will be your multiple choice, 1.2 will be choose the correct word, and 1.3 will be matching items. And the time you should spend there is only 20 minutes answering your section A. Then, section B. In your section B, you have scenarios and you have direct questions. And there is an instruction that says to you, choose any 2 questions. Each question is allocated 40. Hence, we say 40 times 2 equals 80. Now, question 2 will be allocated 40 marks, and the main topic that will be assessed there is business ventures. Then question 3 will be allocated 40 as well, and the main topic that will be assessed there would be business rules. And then we have miscellaneous total or question, which is question 4. This is a combination of business ventures subtopics together with business rules subtopics, and the business rules are allocated 20 marks, whereas the business ventures are also allocated 20 marks, and making the total of question 4 to be 40. So therefore, it means you should equally know your business rules and your business ventures. And the time you should spend there is 70 minutes, meaning you have 35 minutes for each question in this section. Then, section C, you have an essay type question, wherein there is an instruction to say choose only 1 question, and you have question 5 and question 6. Question 5 will be an essay question assessing a business venture subtopic, and it will be allocated 40. Whereas question 6 will be an essay type question assessing business roles subtopics, and the allocated mark is 40, and the time you should spend there is only 30 minutes. Now let us move to the second part of our lesson, where we talk about the main topics that are assessed. We have the following main topics: the business ventures as question 2 and the business rules as question 4. And the business rules as question 3. Then, as we proceed, these are the subtopics that are assessed in your business rules. You'll have questions demanding of you to answer ethics and professionalism, creative thinking and problem solving, social responsibility and corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment, human rights, inclusivity and environmental issues, team performance and conflict management. The understanding you should be having for business roles is that here the focus is on the role of the business, for instance, in being ethical and professional, to say what is the role that is supposed to be played by the business in order for the business to make sure that they are ethical and the workers are professional. With creative thinking and problem solving, we look into it from the same perspective. What is the role of the business in achieving creative thinking and also achieving problem solving, or how to apply problem solving? Social responsibility. What is the role of the business in being socially responsible, and what is the role of the business in terms of corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment? Immediately you have that understanding or that perspective, it becomes easier to respond to the question, because these are the roles that are supposed to be played by the business in support of the subtopics that I'm mentioning here. You look into human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues again. It is talking to the business role to say what is the role of the business in dealing with human rights? What is the role of the business in dealing with diversity to achieve inclusivity? And what is the role, for instance, of the employer in promoting human health and safety? What is the role of the health and safety So it talks to the role that is supposed to be played by the business in order to achieve these subtopics that we are talking about now. Team performance and conflict management. What is the role of the business in assessing team performance? They should look into the criteria of a successful team. They should look into the characteristics as well of a successful team. Thereafter, in conflict management, what is the role of the business in managing conflict? They need to ensure that they acknowledge that there is conflict. They need to handle the conflict. What is the role of the business in grievance? Is to educate employees to say how should they report that grievance, to say they report the grievance to the supervisor, who should solve it within 3 to 5 days. So it talks to the role of the business in achieving the subtopics that I am talking about right now. So think about it to say, this is what the business should do in order to be ethical and professional. They need to know what is the differences between ethical and professional behavior. They need to know, hence we have unethical business practices and unprofessional business practices, to say a business should know that they should not do tax evasion. A business should know that they should not do unfair advertising or pricing of goods in rural areas. Then that is the understanding we should be having here. Hoping that made sense. Then let's look into the first now subtopic, which is now your ethics and professionalism. Here we will be looking into ethics and professionalism in terms of the differences between ethical behavior and professional behavior. We will also look into the application of the King Code principles of good corporate governance. We will look into the differences or the different unethical and unprofessional business practices, name them, and be in a position to explain how they challenge the business, and be in a position to explain strategies to deal with each of these ethical and unprofessional business practices. Then we would recommend ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices should be conducted. So it talks to the business role in terms of saying, how can the business make sure that there is professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices inside the business. Then let us start with the first part, the differences between ethical behavior and professional behavior. What are we talking about here? With ethical behavior, with professional behavior. Professional behavior, you should understand that here we are talking about the worker's behavior. But with ethical behavior, we're talking about the business behavior. So ethical behavior talks to the business, professional behavior talks to the work. Hence, the definition or the differences here outlines that it refers to the principles of right or wrong in the society. Why in the society? Because the business is selling to the society. So since the business is selling to the society, remember, the society is similar to the community. Is similar to the community. So they need to know the principles of right and wrong in the society, in line with what the community is saying. Then it conforms to set of values that are morally acceptable. So the business has to conform or to comply with set of values that are morally acceptable. But with professional behavior, we are saying it refers to what is right or wrong in the business. So as a worker, you should know this is right to do and this is wrong to do when I'm inside the business. Hence, we say as a worker, you should know the set of standards of expected behavior. How should a worker behave inside the workplace? How should they address the other employees? How should they talk to other employees in the workplace? And that would then talk to professional behavior. Then we look now into unethical and unprofessional business practices. Unethical will focus on the business. This is regarding the business. And professional, I repeat, it talks to the workers. Now, unethical business practices, these are unethical. They are not allowed. So it is not allowed for a business to do unfair advertising. It is not allowed for a business to do pricing of goods in rural areas. It is not allowed for a business to do taxation or tax evasion. Then when you look into unprofessional, we are saying as workers, it is not allowed for a worker, or it is considered to be unprofessional for a worker to do sexual harassment. It is considered to be unprofessional for a worker to do abuse of work time. This is when a worker is supposed to be working and performing their duties, but the worker maybe is on TikTok or the worker is on Facebook. They are supposed to be working. There was a contract that was signed. So it is unprofessional. It is not allowed for a worker to be on their phone while they were expected to be performing their duties. It is called abuse of work time, because you are supposed to be working, you are supposed to be producing for the business, but as a worker instead, what are you doing? You are on your Facebook, you are on your social media. Then that talks to abusing work time, because the focus is not on the work, but the focus is on social media or Facebook or TikTok. Then, unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources. Unauthorized. What does the word unauthorized mean? It means not allowed. So it is basically saying the use of funds and resources that you are not allowed to use. Hence, we say it is unauthorized. It is not allowed by the workplace or business for you to use their funds, which is money and resources, maybe Wi-Fi of the business, maybe the paper of the business, maybe the computer of the business, and use them for your personal use. It is considered as a worker. If you are doing that, if you are doing the unauthorized use of workplace funds, you are considered to be unprofessional. And this can lead you to not being or losing a contract or being dismissed by the business. Then, let us look into examples of unfair advertising, pricing of goods in rural areas, and tax evasion. Unfair advertising refers to what? For example, it refers to giving goods false labeling. The product is expected to have a certain brand, but the product is not having that brand, meaning it is given false labeling, which is unfair advertising. Selling second-hand goods as new goods is considered to be unfair advertising as well, because a customer buys a product thinking they are buying a very new product that was not used, only to find out that this is a second hand, someone used it before it was sold to them. Pricing of goods in rural areas, it talks to inflating prices. What is to inflate? To inflate prices is to increase. Is to what? Is to increase the prices. Then charging higher for goods of inferior quality in rural areas is also considered to be an unethical business practice. Then tax evasion. This is when a business does not or do not declare all their income to South African Revenue Services or SARS, and then or they falsify their financial statements in order to pay less tax. This is considered to be unethical. Now, let us look into an assessment on that. So I will ask of you here to identify the two or identify unprofessional business practices illustrated in each statement below. 3.1.1 says the director of KNZ Consulting uses the business credit card. The business credit card is a card that has money. This card has money and the money belongs to the business. So the director is using the business credit card to pay for their personal expenses. This is a personal expense, meaning it is not related to the running of the business. It is not the cost of the business. So if the director is taking a business card, which is a credit card in this regard, used or allocated for buying anything that the business needs, and they buy their own personal and pay their own personal expenses, that is considered to be unprofessional, because the question is what? Unprofessional. But there is a type of unprofessional practice that we are talking about here, and it is called unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources. This business credit card is supposed to buy anything that belongs to the business, not to pay personal expenses, because the personal expenses have to be paid by the director using the salary of the director, not the business credit card. Employees of ZAMU attorneys spend more time on social networks during the hours that they are on their duty. So what are they doing? ZAMU attorneys employees are spending time on social networks. It can be any, remember, Facebook, social network. If the examiner says social network, just know that this is Facebook or TikTok. So the employees are spending time on maybe TikTok. What is going to happen? They are abusing work time. That is the answer. So it is unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources, and also 3.1.2, because employees are spending time on social media or networks, we consider it to be abuse of work time. Then we have another question here, and with this one I want you to attempt, so that we learn together and I get to prepare you fully with no excuse, because now this allows you to be fully prepared. So you just have this full question. I'm just going to give you 5 minutes. You try to answer, and then after 5 minutes, I will come back with the solutions. So let me give you 5 minutes. Welcome back. Now let us look into the typical exam question. It is a scenario-based question with Jimmy Cash and Carry. Now, Jimmy Cash and Carry is a business, obviously, that offers different things. You know, with the Cash and Carry, these are bigger institutions or bigger businesses that sell a lot of products, especially food-related kind of products. So what we are seeing from Jimmy Cash and Carry, according to the scenario, it says here, some employees of Jimmy Cash and Carry watch movies during office hours while on duty. Now, let's think about it. Are these workers going to work to watch a movie, or they went to work so that they can perform their duties, or so that they can perform their work? They are there to work so that they can be paid at the end of the week or at the end of the month, depending with the type of agreement they are having. But immediately employees are watching movies during office hours. These are the hours that are considered in terms of paying the workers. In terms of paying the workers. But these employees are not taking that. They are just watching movies. That is one. Then the other sentence says, the management of JCC underreported their annual profit in the business in order to pay less tax. So when we say they underreported, each and every business at the end of the financial year has to report on how much profit did they make, so that they could be charged tax. But in this regard, the situation or scenario says the business maybe might have made 1 million, but the business decided to report and say they've only made 500,000 profit. So this is called what? under reporting, but this falls under a type of unethical business. And with the employees watching a movie, it must be falling under an unprofitable, because the business is the one that is under reporting, but the workers are the ones who are watching the movies. So let's think about it that way. Now, 2.1.1, code 2 unethical or unprofessional business practices from the scenario above. For how many marks? For 2 marks. Then we're going to quote the 2 unethical. We see the first ones being the employees watching movies, and the second one being the management of Jimmy Cash and Carey under reporting their annual profits in the business in order to pay less tax. We already have an idea what is the challenge there, and then identify the type of unethical or unprofessional business practice for each one quoted in question 2.1.1. Then suggest ways that the Jimmy Cash and Carey could introduce to deal with the type of unethical and unprofessional business practices identified in question 2.1.2. Thereafter, explain how the business could apply transparency and accountability as part of the King Code principles to improve ethical and professional business practices. So now, because of the analysis we have done in the scenario, we will check to say how were you expected to quote and what were you expected to quote. You were expected to quote the first sentence up to the full stop when it said some employees of Jimmy Cash and Carey watch movies during office hours while they are on duty, 1 mark. You don't only focus on the key point, which is watching movies, but you quote the entire sentence from where it starts to the first full stop. Then the second one was supposed to be the management of JCC underreported their annual profits. That is considered again to be the correct quotation that should happen based on that scenario, because the scenario is direct because there's no distractor there. So that will be given 1 again because you quote up to the end. Then now identifying the unethical and unprofessional business practices for each one quoted. So we have abuse of work time because time is being abused because employees are watching movies during office hours. They are expected to be working. So this is a correct type of unprofessional. And then when you look into the management wanting to underreport so that they evade tax, we call that tax evasion. That is correct. Then we look into suggesting practical ways that the business could introduce to deal with this type of unethical and unprofessional, how to deal with tax evasion. The business should make sure that VAT needs to be charged on VATable items. Another one is that they should submit the correct tax returns to SARS on time. Then another one is to make sure that all products should be correctly invoiced and recorded. Then disclose all sources of income for tax payment purpose. Then we look into suggesting practical ways to introduce in terms of dealing with the second now type of unprofessional, which is now abuse of work time. How can the business deal with employees who are abusing work time? Number 1, the business will have to speak directly to the employees those employees who are abusing work time. They need to monitor employees to ensure that tasks are completed on time. Then another one is to remind employees that profit will decrease, resulting in fewer incentives or bonus payouts. Then we proceed and look into transparency and accountability. How can the business deal or apply those King Code principles? The first one, transparency. What are we talking about? To be transparent, it is to allow those who are outside to see clearly what is happening inside without any lie or without any disturbance. So transparency as a King Code principles talks to the idea that a company has shareholders. Shareholders contribute capital. After they have contributed capital, shareholders therefore are not going to run the business. They are not the ones who run the business, but the business is operated on a daily basis by directors. So basically, I will have to throw this model to say we have shareholders. Shareholders who contribute capital. Thereafter, they vote. Voting to decide who's going to run the company. And the company is ran by a director. Now, because the company is run by a director, you should understand those who contributed the capital are called shareholders, and they are not there during the running of the company. So because they are not there during the running of the company, what does it mean? The understanding we should be having, it means that the directors will have to be transparent with the shareholders. They will need to make the shareholders aware of anything. They will need to make shareholders aware of anything that is happening inside the company and the decisions they are taking with regards to running the company. Now let us look into how it should be applied. Decisions or actions must be clear to all stakeholders. Directors who are inside running the business every day should make decisions, and those decisions must be clear to the shareholders, because shareholders are the ones who contributed capital through buying shares. Then staffing and other processes should be open and transparent. The process of staffing is a process of hiring, is the process of getting employees inside the business. So that process should be open and transparent. The shareholders should know about it. The employees or shareholders should be aware of the employment policies of the business. Employees or shareholders should be aware of the employment policies to say, how is this policy implemented? How are people employed inside the business? What is the process that is followed? Auditing and other reports. What is an audit? An audit is a process of checking the financial documents of a business. Financial documents such as an income statement, a balance sheet. So basically it checks whether money coming in and money going out is coming in the right way and is going out the right way without any fraud processes happening. So it is a process that is used to check if there's no fraud taking place in terms of the activities of the business. And other reports. So basically the audit and other reports must be accurate and available to shareholders. Then regular audits should be done to determine the effectiveness of the business. So the business should do regular audit to ensure effectiveness. Then we further look into what? We further look into accountability. The same diagram again will apply to say you have shareholders and you have directors. What happens here? Shareholders contributed capital, remember. But directors are the ones who run the company. Therefore, accountability. What is to account? To account is to give answers. So according to this diagram, who should give answers to who? Directors should give answers to the shareholders. To the what? Shareholders. Why? Because shareholders contributed capital. Hence, accountability is applied through what? Through saying there must be regular communication between management and stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder? Is a shareholder. And then why is there communication? Because yes, as a stakeholder, you invested your money. Therefore, if you invested your money, you need to know how is the company running or operating, and the director should be giving you communication that will make you aware on how the company is running. The business should be accountable and responsible for their actions or decisions that shows that they are accountable by giving answers and responding. And the company should appoint internal and external auditors to audit the financial statements. Then another one is the board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented. Then as we proceed, we look into another type of assessment on your ethics and professionalism, wherein we are looking into now the way in which the business would conduct their operations in a professional, responsible, and ethical way. So we have Natasha Deco, and D, the management of Natasha Deco treats their employees with respect by recognizing the work well done. Wow, this is a company that I would truly appreciate to work in, because it would appreciate the work that I'm doing well. Then another one is that ND ensures that all employees have access to equal opportunities. So what does it mean there? It means employees are given equal opportunities in that same business. Wow, Natasha Decos is doing very well. And then they engage in environmental awareness program. Okay, they don't only care about the employees, but they also care about the environment. So now, this is a way that shows that this business is professional, this business is responsible, and this business is ethical. Now, quote 3 ways in which NT does their business professionally, responsibly, and ethically. And I've done that for you already. Let's check. What were you expected to quote? Number 1, as it is, you quote the management of Natasha Decos treats employees with respect by recognizing work well done. Employees are feeling appreciated in this business because the work well done is always given respect, and they are recognized and shown to say we appreciate the work well done. Then ND ensures that all employees have access to equal opportunities. And then another one is that they engage in environmental awareness programs. They also care about the environment. So this is a combination of all: being professional, being responsible, and also being ethical as a business. Then let us look into explaining other ways. Now, when the question says explain other, they are saying other ways except the ones that you quoted in 3.2.1. You are not going to quote, you are not going to explain using this when you are answering a question that says explain other ways. So you are not going to quote, for instance, this one is not part of the scenario. It says business decisions and actions must be clear to stakeholders. That is correct. Another one is that the business should be accountable for their decisions or actions or patent rights. Another one says the business should be or should hire honest or trustworthy accountants or financial officers with good credentials. Then they should ensure that they do regular or timeous payment of taxes. Then also they need to throw up a code of ethics or code of conduct. Then they should do ongoing development and training of all employees. Also, the mission statement should include values of equality and respect. Then we look into another subtopic, which is creative thinking and problem solving. With creative thinking and problem solving, the focus will be on how you should master the skill of identifying the problem solving techniques from the scenario. So 3.1, you are expected to identify the problem solving techniques from the statements provided. 3.1.1, 3.1.2, and 3.1.3. So this is expected of you to say, now answer this one. I'll give you 2 minutes. Thereafter, I will come back with the solutions. So let me give you 2 minutes. You try to identify the problem solving techniques. Then I provide you with the solutions. Welcome back. Now, the question is identify the problem solving techniques represented by each statement below. Let me give you a tip. When you are answering such a question, you should know ways in which the problem solving technique is used, or when is the problem solving technique supposed to be used. We have a problem solving technique that is used when the business wants to change certain aspects inside the business. we have a problem-solving technique that we use when the business is facing a new challenge that they never faced. We have a problem-solving technique that is used when, for instance, a business is looking for new ideas, because problem solving is not necessarily about the idea of the business looking, but it's also about solving, it's also about coming up with a new idea and encouraging new ways of doing things. So now, when you look into 3.1.1, it says, Carl gives his employees an opportunity to suggest ideas randomly, which are then written on a flip chart. And then another one is the management of Tony Consulting have listed advantages and disadvantages of changing their business structure. Then the employees of Shoba Fashion Design have been requested to quietly generate as many ideas as possible and then share them with other employees. Now, let us look into what I have done there. I have underlined all the keywords that helps you to answer the question, and that helps you to differentiate the problem-solving technique to another problem-solving technique. So, look at it this way. Carl gives his employees an opportunity to suggest ideas randomly, which are then written on a flip chart. This is one. Then the other one is that they are listing advantages and disadvantages for changing their business structure. Then Shoba Fashion Design generates, or they are requested to generate quietly as many ideas as possible. So now, when you look into it, the only problem-solving technique that talks about suggesting ideas randomly is called brainstorming, because during brainstorming, the business is looking for new ideas. Therefore, they may not limit their employees in terms of suggestion of ideas, so they need them to give ideas randomly. Another tip would be, this is the only problem-solving technique that will talk about ideas being written on a flip chart. And then another one is the issue of advantages and disadvantages, and the issue of changing only tells you that the problem-solving technique here is force-field analysis. Now, that is a problem-solving technique that is used when the business wants to change. Then another one is when employees are asked to generate quietly. Immediately you see the word generate quietly. Immediately you see silent brainstorming. Then you know this is a keyword, because it helps you to differentiate nominal group technique with brainstorming. With brainstorming, ideas are suggested randomly, meaning they are not quietly suggested. So then this becomes nominal group technique. Now, let's see. What is the solution? Brainstorming? Yes. Together with force field analysis and nominal group. Keywords, random. This is random. Keyword here, change. Or advantages and disadvantages. Keyword here is silent or quiet or quiet. Then it can be sometimes silent brainstorming or quietly generate ideas. Then we look into social responsibility and start by looking into triple bottom line, to say triple bottom line consists of the 3 P's: profit or economic, people or social, or planet or environmental. Now, 3 socio-economic issues that you should know under social responsibility. We talk about HIV and AIDS, we talk about unemployment and poverty. Thereafter, the well-being of the employees and the community. You should know ways businesses can contribute the time and effort in improving the well-being of the employees and the well-being of the community. Then when you look into corporate social responsibility, you should know the purpose, you should know the components and the impact of your corporate social responsibility. But with corporate social investment, you should know the purpose together with the focus areas and the impact and examples of corporate social investment projects. Then you should also know the what now, the impact of both CSR and CSI. But let's start by looking into this possible assessment. This assessment is on the well-being of the employees and the well-being of the community. And then let us look into how you can be assessed there. You see, the action verb is a scenario, and you should not expect that always the scenario will say identify. The scenarios now vary. There's a scenario that requires of you to identify. There's a scenario that requires of you to identify, and there's a scenario that says quote from the scenario. Now, read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. We have June traders. June traders decided to invest their surplus profits in corporate social investments or corporate social investment projects. They have invested in communities by donating school uniform, and sporting facilities were also provided by JT to promote a healthy lifestyle. Now, 3.1.1, quote two ways in which JT contributed to the well-being of the community. Let's think about it. They have donated their profit, we see that, but how did they do it? They have invested in the community by donating school uniform, that's number one. Number two, sporting facilities were provided by JT to promote a healthy lifestyle in the community. So that is considered to be the business showing that they care for the well-being of their community by providing school uniform, by also providing what? Healthy facilities or sporting facilities that will promote a healthy lifestyle. Then the question that follows is explain other ways in which JT can contribute to the well-being of the communities, or also evaluate the impact of CSR on the business and on the community. Now let us look into the solution. We need to know how to quote. We quote as it is from the sentence where it starts to where it ends. They invested in communities by donating school uniforms. Number one. Number two, sporting facilities were also provided by JT to promote a healthy lifestyle. Then we look into what now? Explaining other ways. What are the other ways of contributing to the well-being of the community? When the question says other ways, by now you should be knowing grade 12. What happens? You do not take what you quoted in the previous question. Repeat, I'm listening. You do not quote what you quoted in the scenario that side, because if you do that, you will then be rendering yourself as what? Losing the marks, because you are repeating what was already given a mark. Now, explain other ways. Businesses should improve the general quality of life of their community. Another one is they should ensure that the products they supply do not harm consumers. Then they should avoid engaging in illegal practices such as employing children under the legal age. Thereafter, they need to make ethically correct business decisions, for example, by not engaging in unfair advertising. Then we are done. We look into the impact of CSR and CSI on the business. The positives are the business may attract experienced employees or an increased pool of skilled labor, which could increase the productivity of the business. That is the advantage if the business is doing CSR and CSI. An improved or a positive image as the business looks after its employees or conduct itself in a responsible way. Then a business may have a competitive advantage resulting in good publicity or improved reputation. However, what are the negatives? The negatives are customers may not buy their products or services, resulting in decrease in sales. And then social spending reduces the business or economic efficiency, which will make the business to be less competitive. And then detailed reports must be drawn up, which can be time consuming for the business. However, when we look into the impact of the community, in terms of the community, the advantages for the community in terms of the CSR and CSI projects happening in their communities, that socio-economic issues such as unemployment, poverty, they are attended to, which will improve the welfare of the community. Training opportunities in the community increase the possibility of appointments of members of the community. So that is how the community is benefiting. But what are the negatives? The negatives may include that businesses that are trying to help here are not always equipped to address social problems such as unemployment, such as poverty. Communities tend to depend on the CSR program and struggle to take their own initiative. That is another negative over there. Then we look into another possible assessment there. We have Themba Chicken Farm. We have a scenario. We have the questions that you should answer as well. And then after that, we look into the solutions. So I will just give you here 5 minutes. You try to answer. I will come back with the solutions. So let me give you your 5 minutes. Welcome back. Now let us look into Themba Chicken Farm. Themba Chicken Farm specializes in selling live and slaughtered chickens in the local township. Some employees of Themba Chicken Farm stay absent from work on regular basis as they have collected ARVs from the clinic. Now, the majority of the people in the community are actively looking for jobs, but there is no opportunity. Now, let us look into what the question is requiring of us. And already we need to underline or encircle our tip-offs. Immediately we see ARV, we have a tip-off. Immediately we see that people are looking for jobs, we have a tip-off there, but there are no opportunity. That is a tip-off to say what might be expected of us to answer. Now, identify 2 socio-economic issues that affect Themba Chicken Farm and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. Thereafter, discuss strategies to deal with the socio-economic issues identified in question 3.1.1. Then advise businesses on the relationship between social responsibility and the triple bottom line. Now, when you check that already, because people are looking for jobs but there are no opportunity, it then talks to what? It talks to unemployment. It talks to unemployment as a socio-economic issue. And then when you see the issue of collecting ARVs, then it talks to what? HIV and AIDS. HIV and AIDS. As a what now? As a socio-economic issue. Now, let's proceed and look into it to say, was I correct with that analysis? Yes, HIV and AIDS. What is the motivation? The motivation to choose HIV and AIDS is because Themba Chicken Farm says some employees stay absent from work on a regular basis due to the idea that they have to collect ARVs. So that is the correct motivation. Unemployment, yes, because the majority of the community are actively looking for jobs, but there are no opportunities. So it's 2 here, is 4 for identifying, and is 6 in total. Then we proceed and look into what now? Strategies for each socio-economic issue. Strategy for dealing with HIV and AIDS. Develop counseling programs for infected or affected employees in the workplace. Then conduct workshops on HIV and AIDS programs or campaigns. Roll out an antiretroviral program for infected employees. Encourage employees to also join support groups. As we look into another socio-economic issue, which is unemployment, provide skills development programs through learnerships so that they could learn and have a skill which maybe allows them to start their own business. Then, because they are unemployed, offer bursaries to the community to improve the levels of education within the community. Then, after, create jobs for members of the community in the business. Then, provide entrepreneurial programs that can promote self-employment. Then, support existing small businesses to grow with time and money and to enable them to create more opportunities. Then we proceed and say, advise businesses on the relationship between social responsibility and triple bottom line. We have profit, for instance. Profit means that the business should not only focus on profit or charging higher prices, but they should also invest in CSI. So because of that, we say profit 2. Then 1 for the explanation. Then we say here is max. Then people. With people, we say 2 marks for just saying people, and the business operations should not have a negative impact on the community. And then another one is the business should invest in sustainable community projects that will uplift the community. We will not mark it because the maximum mark is allocated. Planet. 2 marks for just saying planet, and for explaining to say businesses should not exhaust or harm the environment for profit purpose. That is 1 mark. And then that is how you're supposed to be allocated. Or they may support eco-friendly products or production methods. Then we look into human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues, and start with the human rights in the workplace. You should know that you should know the right to privacy, dignity, together with equity, and freedom of speech and expression, together with information, and the right to safety, security, and protection of life. How should you write it, learners? Safety, security, and protection of life. I repeat, safety, security, and protection of life. These are the human rights that you should know, and we focus on these human rights to say, how can the business deal with them? Let's check now. We also have diversity issues. We have the following diversity issues: poverty, race, gender, together with language and age, together with culture or religion, and disability. You should know how to identify them from the scenario. You should know how to identify them from the statements, and then you should know how to explain them as well for purpose of the section B. Then environmental issues. We are talking about protecting the environment and human health. So we look into strategies in which the business can apply to promote human health and protect the environment, the responsibility of the employer in protecting the environment and human health, the responsibility or the role of the health and safety representatives in protecting the workplace, and the responsibility of the employee. Now let us look into possible assessment. Now we focus on giving you techniques on how to identify the human rights in the workplace. Now, 1.1.1 is a question that has statements. So 1.1 says identify the human rights that are applicable to each statement below. Now, employees are not forced to do embarrassing work or degrading work. Managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. Another statement says businesses allow open communication channels between management and employees. Then another one says employees are provided with protective clothing. Then another one says personal information is kept confidential. Now, let us go and analyze and encircle. The key words for us is degrading or embarrassing work talks to a certain human right. And then when we see the word discrimination, we know it talks to a certain human right. And then when we say it allows open communication between management and employees, it means a certain human right is also applied there. And these are businesses that we want to see. And then employees being provided with protective clothing is also talking to a human right being applied. So when you check that, we'll then say with the right that talks to employees not being embarrassed or being degraded, it talks to what? It talks to the right to dignity. The right to dignity. Then managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. Managers ensure that employees do not suffer because of discrimination. So that one will talk to what? It will talk to what? Think about it. Discrimination. It means everyone should be treated with equity in the business. Equity in the business. Then the business allows open communication channel. Now it talks to the right to freedom. Freedom of speech and expression. Then the idea of employees being provided with protective clothing. This is a human right we call safety, security, and protection of life. Then when we say employees' personal information is kept confidential, that talks to the right to privacy. Then that is how you are supposed to get your 10 marks. Let's check. Dignity, correct. Let's check. Equity, correct. Freedom of speech, correct. And safety, security, and protection of life is also correct. Then we also have privacy. So that is how you should analyze. Always master your keywords. Then we proceed and look into what now? A scenario-based question where we are looking into diversity issues. Issues. Now, ELSA Printers EP. ELSA Printers employs more males than females. Their building does not have facilities for people who use wheelchairs. English is the only medium of communication allowed in the workplace, despite the fact that some employees do not understand or speak it. Now, ELSA Printers will employ more males than females. The building will have what now? It does not have facilities for what? Wheelchair. So we need to analyze here. Encircle our keywords, males and females. There's a certain diversity issue there. And then the issue of not having wheelchair facility is another issue again, because it means if you have a disability, you are not accommodated. And then when you look into this one, that the fact that they don't understand the only medium of communication in the workplace, it means they are excluded. So identify 3 diversity issues that are applicable in the scenario and motivate your answer. So because of the issue of communication, it then talks to language. Then the issue of the building not having or accommodating people with wheelchairs because it doesn't have the facility, then it means the diversity issue, disability. Then with males and females, it should be gender. You say it's not fair because there's more males than females. So let's check. Yes, it's gender, disability, and language. 1, 1, 1. Then 6 here, then 3 here, then 9. Then we have Look Printers, another scenario again on the what now? On the diversity issues. Now let me allow you to answer this one and give you 5 minutes. After that, I come back with the solutions on how you are supposed to deal with this diversity issue. So let me give you 5 minutes. Welcome back. Now let us go through the scenario and answer questions that follow. Look Printers, LP, Look Printers, specializes in printing flyers. The management ensures that there is no discrimination in the workplace based on the skin color. I will underline that part because I believe there's an answer there. LP also encourages older employees to help young employees to develop their full potential. So the issue of having young employees helping or being assisted by old employees, it talks to a certain diversity issue. So let us check the question. 3.3.1, identify 2 diversity issues and in affecting LP in the workplace in the scenario above, and then motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. And then 3.3.2, explain 2 ways in which LP should deal with each of the diversity issues identified in question 3.3.1, and then suggest the benefits of a diversity in the workplace. So when you check that, we say this talks to what? Because the skin color is an issue here and there's no discrimination, then skin color only talks to the race. And then when you see old and young, the diversity issue that is applicable there is age. And then we say identify, then we have identified, and we need to motivate the right way by quoting from the scenario, because the scenario helped us to identify race and age, then explain 2 ways in which the business could deal with each. So the solution is race and age. 1 mark here, 1 mark here, because of those motivations. 2 and 4 and 2, then a total of 6. Then we look into how to deal with age. For instance, a business may not employ children aged 15 and younger, and then younger employees must be advised to respect and learn from older employees, and the business must encourage older employees to help. And now we cannot allocate this one. I will give it an R, because why? We saw it in the scenario. So also promotions should not be linked to age, but rather to a specific set of skills. So if some information that you are using to recommend is there in the scenario, it will not be marked. It will be treated this way. It will be called a repetition, because we saw it in the scenario and you obtained 1 mark for motivation. Then, suggesting the benefits of diversity in the workplace. These are the benefits. Number 1, workplace diversity means there's different workers, different races, different genders, different ages in the workplace. So workplace diversity improves the ability of the business to solve problems, innovate, and cultivate diverse markets. Employees value each other's diversity and learn to connect and communicate across lines of differences. And then diversity in the workplace improves the morale and motivation. Employees demonstrate greater loyalty to businesses because they feel respected, accepted, and understood. Then diversified workforce can give the business a competitive advantage because they can render what? As they can render best services. So this is to say, because there's different ages, different employees, they can render best services because of that. Then now, we look into team performance and conflict management. What should you know? The criteria of a successful team, characteristics of a successful team, team dynamic theories, stages of team development together with causes of conflict, how to handle conflict, dealing with grievance and the correct grievance procedure, then dealing with difficult personalities and employees. This is the last part of our lesson. Now, how can this be assessed? You might be asked to identify the criteria for a successful team in each statement below or in a scenario. But for this purpose of revision, we look into the statements. We have 3.1.1, 3.1.2 together with 3.1.3 and 3.1.4. Now, teams continuously review their progress in order to rectify mistakes. What is to review? To review is to sit down as a team and check everything that was done by the team and communicate about. So that is a key word for us to answer here, to say what criteria is applied by that team. Then all team members take part in decision making. So because all of these employees take part in decision making, that is considered to be what? Think about it. They are taking part in the decision making. That is considered to be what? Cooperation, because everyone is in together to make a decision. Are we together, grade 12? Am I making sense to you? Because if we are saying what is to cooperate is to be able to follow and participate and show commitment for the business. Then team members are committed towards achieving a common goal. That is another one. And they show respect for the knowledge and skills of others. So immediately we see respect, that's a keyword there. And then when we see committed towards, that's a keyword over there, which talks to interpersonal attitudes and behavior. So the solution would be communication because of the review, and then it will be cooperation because all team members, they are cooperative. all team members want to work together, they want to cooperate and make sure that they follow, they collaborate as well. Then another one is interpersonal attitudes and behavior because of the commitment, and then shared values because they respect each other's knowledge. Then another one now is a statement-based question on the stages of team development. You have the following stages of team development, and with these stages, you should know how to identify them from the scenario. Now, the question says, identify the stages of team development applicable to Shiburi construction team in each statement below. Team members confront each other's ideas and fight for leadership position. Then I'm underlining keywords for you and circling them for you so that you see to say, how did we get to the answer? The team is aware of its aims and make decisions without supervision. Now, when a team is making a decision without the supervision of the leader, it means they know what is expected of them, and now they are excelling at what they do. The team members gather information about the tasks that must be performed. Now, when they are gathering tasks or information about the task that must be performed, it talks to what? What does it talk to? It talks to the first one, because they confront each other's ideas. This is stormy. When we see the word conflict, confrontations, clash of ideas, that must be stormy. Then the team is aware of its aims and makes decisions without supervision. Without supervision, meaning everyone is excelling in that team. No one has to be checked if they're doing the right. It means that stage is called performing. Everyone is performing in the team. Then, team members gather information about the task. They will only gather information about what is to be done because they are at the beginning. Therefore, we call it forming stage. So let's check if I'm correct. Must be storming, it must be performing, it must be forming. Okay. We look into the other questions, explain 2 other stages of team development, and discuss 3 criteria of a successful team. Now, this is the solution we have established to say this is storming, this is performing, and this is forming. Then, explaining other 2 stages, which is norming and agending. With norming, team members come to an agreement and reach consensus. And then we also say 2 marks here and 1 mark for the explanation. Roles and responsibilities are clearly defined as well. And then with agending or mourning, this is a stage where the team is about to dissolve. The task must be completed before the project ends. Then breaking up the team may be traumatic, as the team members may find it difficult to perform as individuals. So this is the last stage. Then now, explain 3 criteria of a successful team. These are the criteria. Interpersonal attitudes and behavior. Team members must have a positive attitude of support and motivation towards each other. And then they must be committed towards achieving a common goal. Shared values. Team members should show respect towards other members despite their differences, and they should also show respect for the knowledge and skills of other members. With communication, communication talks to a clear set of processes for teamwork, where every team member understands his or her role, and then team members will have good communication so that quick decisions can be made. Then cooperation or collaboration, all team members should take part in decision making, and clearly defined goals must be set so that all members know exactly what is to be achieved. So that is cooperation or collaboration. Then let us read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. So here we have Leletu Shuttle Services. Leletu Shuttle Services provides transport services for tourists in Sharpeville. Albert, a well-experienced employee in the transport industry, refuses to take instructions from management. Jabulo, the supervisor at Leletu Shuttle Services, accepts every idea from top management. Now, let's check where is our answers. This is where our answer is. And this is where our answer is. Now, identify 2 types of difficult personalities displayed by Albert and Jabulo and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. Then recommend strategies on how to deal with each of these difficult personalities. Then advise on how to handle conflict in the workplace. So, immediately we see Albert. Albert refuses to take instruction. So therefore we consider this to be what? Is because Albert is showing what? The idea that is well experienced. So therefore, because Albert is an expert, he's not going to be taking instruction. Then when we say they accept every idea as it comes, now this is someone who's over agreeing to everything. Over agree to everything that is being said. Then let's check. Yes, expect. Yes, over agree because well experienced. That's why we are saying Albert is an expert, and that's why we are saying Jabule, the supervisor, accepts every idea from top management, therefore over agreeing on the matter. How do you deal with an expert? Okay, hoping you look into it and check. Like I am saying to you that the idea of being well experienced as an employee in the transport industry and refusing to take instruction from management, Jabulo, the supervisor at LWS, accepts every idea. Therefore, because of accepting every idea, the personality is called overagreeing. Because of the well experienced and refusing to take is because of they are an expert. And then how do you deal with the expert? How do you deal with an overagreeing personality? Do not accuse an expert of being incorrect and know your facts. With an over-agreeing, be firm and do not let them make promises that they cannot keep, and then follow up with their action because they agree with everyone who gives them a task, but they never complete their task. Hence, we say follow up on their action. Then now, advise the business on how to handle conflict. Acknowledge that there's conflict in the workplace. Then identify the cause of conflict in the workplace. Arrange a meeting with the conflicting parties, employee A and employee B who are in the conflict. Then each party must be given an opportunity to express their opinion. So employee A talks to say what is their problem and employee B does the same. Then blame shifting should be avoided and a joint effort must be made to say, okay, now we are focusing on solving the problem. Brainstorm possible ways of resolving conflict, then provide opportunities for each party to agree on the best solution. Thereafter, select and implement the best solution. Should it not work, source experts on handling conflict from outside. Then we are done with our lesson. Summary of this lesson: we looked into ethics and professionalism, creative thinking and problem solving, social responsibility, corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment, human rights inclusivity and environmental issues. Then we looked into team performance and conflict management. So that is your business rules. Study everything so that you become safe. Just know it will never change. It will come this way always. This is your question 3 and also this is your question 6. So if you study everything, you are just safe in terms of question 3 and question 6. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Keep well. Goodbye.